All right. Well, thanks for taking the time to watch this little video. So here's the thing. A lot of people are afraid of public speaking. A lot of people are like deathly afraid of public speaking. In fact, there's this great old Jerry Seinfeld stand-up comedy routine where he talks about some recent survey that indicated that people's number one fear was public speaking, and that their number two fear was death. And so, and so Jerry says, apparently that means that if you're going to be at a funeral, you would rather be in the casket than delivering the eulogy. And I think there are a lot of people who feel that way. So, we're all aware of these people in history who just had this gift of just being incredible public speakers. And we feel as if they were born with some gene that we will never have. But as Ralph Waldo Emerson said, all great speakers were bad speakers first. This stuff can be learned. It's like any other skill. So I'm just going to give you my 10 simple tips on preparing and delivering great presentations. There's a lot of resources out there on this topic. There's entire books on this topic. You can go to Toastmasters meetings and learn how to become a better public speaker. You can take a Dale Carnegie public speaking course. There's lots of great resources out there. I'm just going to take about 5 minutes and give you my 10 brain dead simple tips. The first is to always know your desired outcome for the presentation. I once worked with a guy who was the most disciplined salesman I've ever worked with in my life. And one of the ways in which he was incredibly disciplined is that before we would walk into a meeting, before we would walk into a presentation, he would always turn to me and he would say, what do we want to close on today? What is our desired outcome from this presentation? And I think that's a really good place to start, is as you're working on your presentation, be really clear about what your desired outcome is. The second thing is to know your audience. It's really important to know your audience, know their background, know their knowledge, their existing knowledge set around the topic that you're presenting on. And, we live in a world today where before you go to a meeting, before you go to a pitch meeting or a presentation of some sort, it's pretty easy to look up the people you're going to be presenting to and find out something about their backgrounds before it. And you'll find that if you do that, if you do a little research on who you're talking to, you will save yourself some embarrassment and you will improve the outcomes. The third thing is just practice, practice, practice. There's just no substitute for practice. And I always say that every time I've ever given a presentation, I've always wished that I'd practiced just one more time. Tell personal stories, work personal anecdotes into your presentation. Humans are hardwired to love personal stories. And so find ways to open with something about yourself, to weave a little personal narrative into your presentation. You'll find that if you do that, your presentation will be much more engaging for the audience. Run short. Whatever amount of time you've been allotted, come in under that. If you've been allotted 15 minutes for your presentation, come in at 12. If you've been allotted 30 minutes for your presentation, come in at 25. Everybody complains about presentations running too long, and nobody in the history of the world has ever complained about a presentation being too short. Keep your slides simple. You want your audience focused on you and the great story you're telling. You don't want your audience distracted by the slides. So please don't do this, and don't do this. And please don't ever do this. Better yet, can you do the entire presentation without slides? I once had the experience of going in to pitch a venture capitalist, and I opened up my laptop to show him my amazing slides. And he said, close that goddamn laptop up. What I want to know is, can you tell me using words and words alone why what you're working on is so compelling that I would want to invest? And I think that's a really good lesson, that the story has to stand on its own. You have to be able to tell a crisp, clear, and compelling story that stands on its own. If you can do that, then adding some slides in will make it just that much better. Don't ever read your slides to the audience. Seriously, don't ever read your slides to the audience. First of all, it's incredibly condescending because your audience can read the slides a lot faster than you can read them to them. And secondly, as soon as you turn to start reading your slides, you've taken your attention off of the audience. And if you take your attention off the audience, you lose them. Slow down. So here's the thing: is all of us, we get up there on stage, we get all nervous, and once we get nervous, we start talking too fast. And once you start talking too fast, you lose your audience. And here is probably the most important thing I'm going to tell you today. Learn the power of the pause. Once you pause, you have the attention of the entire room. So slow down, pace yourself, and learn the power of the pause. Lastly, be grateful. I think this is a good way to go through life in general. And it's an important thing to think about with presentations. Always start your presentation by thanking the audience so much for being there, and always conclude your presentation by thanking the audience for their time. You'll find that if you appreciate your audience, that they will appreciate you. So that's it. There's my 10 kind of simple tips on preparing and delivering great presentations. And I hope that in this little presentation, I hope I've helped you to fear death just a little bit more than public speaking. Thanks very much. I appreciate your time.